Hey, it's Lori Ballen here in Las Vegas with Ballen Academy and At Your Command Coaching. Today we're going to go over goals. Now, I just completed a complete ebook to go with this, so if you are in my coaching group, you're going to get a copy of this ebook there in your lesson plan. So just log in and go to goals and you can access the ebook. Now, I'm going to walk you through the entire setup today. And when you first log into KW Command, if you haven't already done so down here, if you have not set up your goals, there's going to be a little link up here that actually tells you to click there to get started. That is going to help you access the Kelly Guide for goals. Now, goals are essentially your business plan for the following year, and it's going to basically tell you how many activities you need to do to get to how many agreements, or actually to get to how many leads, which become contacts, which then become appointments, which then become agreements, which then become closings, right? And we're going to figure each of those percentages. You guys have seen this with MREA and probably in many other business planning classes. The difference with Command is that it's actually going to use our online activities that we do in Command to calculate the actual numbers. This is huge for those that are actually going to use Command as it's designed. Now, I frequently say that my favorite piece of Command is the contacts, and it's for this reason, because of the insights and because of the tracking and monitoring of what to do next. It's going to help us really control our business instead of being on that crazy roller coaster. So what we're going to do here is if I'm already set up here and I want to go back to the Kelly Guide, so I'm going to go over here to reports. There we go, reports. And I'm going to click on goals right up here. All right, so I've already set mine. In your case, if you haven't set them yet, you will see an option that says start here to access the Kelly Guide. And I'm actually bookmarking. If you look up here in this URL, you're going to be able to see the address, which is the web page of many of these things, such as the Kelly Guide. And then you can bookmark it to access it again in the future, which I'll show you here when we go to the next step. So right here, what I'm able to see is that I've already set up my goals, and this is how long until those goals become effective. So I've set my goals for 2020. It's still 2019. So it's basically saying you still got a month and 28 days before your actual goals are going to become live and tracked. So we're just kind of thinking ahead here, and we have all of November and we have all of December at the time I'm recording this. So that's why that shows up there. Once we're in 2020, we won't see that. All right, so I'm going to click over here on the plus sign to access the Kelly Guide now. So we're going to, remember, I always teach, if you don't know where to go, look for plus signs, arrows, and dots. Plus signs, arrows, and dots in Command are going to be your best friend. Oftentimes, these arrows will drop down another set of options, or the three dots will open a menu, or the plus sign will do something. Those are the three things you always need to look for if you're stuck. All right, so see what I set up here. This is now the address for the Kelly Guide. command.kw.com/command/Kelly Guide/goals. So I can actually bookmark this so that I can get back here, Kelly Guides goals. And then I can save that wherever I want to save that. I'm going to put it in my bookmarks bar. All right. So now I've got that in case I ever want to come back to it later. So save all of your Kelly Guides so that you know how to get to your smart plans. It's just basically whatever is after this slash after Kelly Guides is going to be your page address for that particular Kelly Guide. All right, what should I expect to get out of this guide? All right, so you're going to set your goals and we're going to review our goals. Let's go ahead and click Get Started. Now, before you jump in, some of these things are going to feel a little self-explanatory, but I want you to pause because there are a couple spots in here that are very different from the way we would typically think. And I will show you what those are as we go on. So stay with me all the way through to the end. Annual profit goals. What are you setting your goals for? Next year, 2020. We're all doing the same thing right at this moment. What is your annual profit goal? Okay, profit is your total GCI, which is gross closed income. So what are your commissions? That's your GCI. What are your commissions? Minus operating expenses and cost of sales. So we're basically saying, what do we want to profit before taxes, right? After we take out all of our cost of sales and after we take out our operating expenses, what do we want to put in our pocket before taxes, all right? Now, for the sake of math, let's just say you want to profit 200, let's do really easy math. Let's say $100,000. I mean, let's be real for a minute. We all see these massive numbers because we're so exposed to teams at Keller Williams. Most people would be over the moon thrilled to put $100,000 in your pocket after expenses before taxes. I mean, that's a pretty darn good job if you're making six figures, period, right? We know that the average salaries for a real estate agent are under $50,000. So let's be real with this. Now, your coach and everybody's gonna tell you shoot for the moon, aim high. I don't want to yada yada those things because I believe in them. But I at the same time I want you to be realistic in your business planning so that you don't live in a constant state of disappointment and that you can really make these numbers actual. So Gary Keller says, set your target and then shoot slightly higher. And the reason for that is you're probably going to come out a little bit lower, and then you're actually going to hit the target that you want to hit. So let's just say you really are okay with 75,000 because that's going to pay all of your bills. That's going to feed your family. Then you might actually put in here 100, kind of with that little caveat that I need to hit 75. I'd like to hit 100. I need to hit 75. So if you aim for 100, there's a good chance you're going to hit that 75. This may not be conducive to what your coach is telling you, so you set up your business plan however you want. I am a very optimistic coach, but I'm also a realist. At the same time, I get very disappointed when I shoot for the moon and it's so far out according to I don't really have a plan that is hardcore doable, and everybody's telling me aim higher, aim higher, aim higher, and then I'm constantly shooting lower. I live in a state of disappointment. And for me, that's not conducive to my self-esteem and morale. So I'm gonna shoot somewhere just above my target. All right. So this number is not my actual numbers, but these are they absolutely could be. So let's just say this is where we want to go with this. So 100,000 is our profit goal. Okay. So what that means is if you're in a 30% tax bracket, 30,000 of that's going to go to the IRS and 70,000 is what you're going to keep. That's just like some rough numbers there, okay? All right. I'm going to do another blog and video on paying your taxes because that's a whole nother conversation. Okay, so now what is your average commission? Now you can do this a couple ways. Ideally, if you have a team and your entire team is using Command and everybody's doing the same kind of activities, this might be set as at a team level of our team average commission is $10,000 or whatever that might be. And then you're going to deduct for cost of sales, you're going to deduct for operating expenses, that type of thing based on whatever your compensation structure is, okay? Another way to do this would be more individualized, where I'm going to track mine, and David's going to track his, and Chris is going to track hers. What I don't know as far as today goes, when this is just rolled out a couple weeks ago, I don't know what the team version is really going to look like. So we're going to have to let that roll out a little bit. So you might want to do this based on whatever you receive, or you might want to do it based on what you pay the team. So we'll kind of look at it from whatever that aspect is. All right, so let's just say our average commission is $10,000. Okay, now you're going to enter what are your operating expenses and what is your cost of sales. Now, if you click on these little eyes above each thing, there's some little suggestions and tips. Now, here's what I like about this part here. What we're basically saying is your operating expenses are everything you're going to spend every month. This is going to be annualized, okay, for the year. But what you're going to spend all year long regardless of if you do a deal or not. So you're going to pay for your licenses, your insurances, auto expenses, potentially occupancy expenses. If you want to put in like rent of an office or something like that, not just whatever your brokerage charges for a desk, but you want to actually list it as if you're paying for an office. Those would be under operating expenses. Your telephone, your ink and office supplies. Those are all operating expenses. Your education, family reunion, mega camp, your coach, your lead generation expenses, your Facebook ads, your website hosting if you have a separate website, your landing page software, all of those things are going under your operating expenses. So whether you do one deal or 100 deals, these expenses exist no matter what. They may increase or decrease depending on how much you need to drive and do these things, but they're going to happen no matter what. Where cost of sales are transactional. So these are expenses that typically only happen related to a transaction. So your brokerage fees, so whatever your amount is that you're paying to the brokerage, if you have a $16,000 cap, quote unquote, or a $20,000 cap or a $30,000 cap, that is a cost of sale, and it typically comes out based on each check. So you're keeping 70 or 80%, and 20 or 30% is going towards your cap. That's a cost of sale. Your franchise fee, I think it's 6%. That is a cost of sale. The referral that you're paying the agent that sends you a referral, that is a cost of sale. Now, some people I know, and I've done it this way in the past before, I've kind of fluctuated back and forth, will actually only count the amount of commission when they get their check. Whatever that referral fee is they paid out, they don't even count it. They just count whatever their commission is after that referral fee is paid. That's up to you. If you really want good tracking, you would count that, because it's easier to estimate next year's sales based on what your actual expenses are going to be. And that 25% coming out the top is very similar to a lead generation fee and therefore should be counted. Okay, you can do the math that way. ISAs, and what they mean by ISAs and transaction coordinators is if they are paid per transaction. So if you've got an admin, that is an operating expense. That's a salary. But if your transaction coordinator is paid like $300 at the time of closing, she or he is a cost of sale. If your ISA is paid a salary, that's an operating expense. But if they also receive a 5% bonus at time of closing, that 5% is a cost of sale. So look at it that way. Anything that is directly attached to the check that's put on your green sheet or has deductions or wherever we're listing that now in your opportunities, based on the transaction, is a cost of sale. Everything else is an operating expense. Okay. Taxes don't go on either one of these as far as your personal income taxes go, because those are going to be paid after your profits. But any of your taxes that you're matching on payroll, federal withholding, those are part of your payroll expense. Those are going to be listed in your operating expenses. Okay. All right. So if you are on payroll, which I've always done, and your empire, your company is paying payroll, then that would actually be part of the operating expense. And then it's going to become your personal profit once you get your W-2 at the end of the year, right? That's the major difference. Okay, balance of business. Now, just so that you know, I have a team, so I'm always trying to talk to the individual agent and to the rainmaker at the same time, because they're going to look a little bit different. Now, what is the balance of your business? How much of your business is listing based, and how much of your business is buyer based? Okay, if you're really heavy buyers, you want to change this to 75-25. Again, the more we use command, the more these numbers will auto-populate, and that is the beauty of this to me. This is not just a spreadsheet that we are setting up one time and then trying to hit our goals. This is going to become goal versus actual based on what's listed in command. So as our leads get entered, as our contacts get entered, as our appointments get entered, as our calls get entered, as our opportunities, appointments, agreements, closings. As those get entered in command, these numbers will show us the actuals. And then when we move on to next year, the following year, you're not going to have to guess anything because your actual numbers will show up as long as you're using command. Guys, this is priceless to me. This is priceless. This would be so hard to actually build out in the software. And the fact that it's MREA based, I mean, we have everything we've ever learned now in an actual reporting software that we don't have to pay extra for. This is incredible to me. And I would love to coach agents just through their activities according to this goal setting plan, because it's so tangible to me now. And everybody thinks, oh, well, Lori's a super analytical, super numbers person. It's actually not true. For those of you that follow DISC, I'm a DI personality through the roof, 100%, 100%. So I'm super result oriented, super driven. The I more stands for influential, and my analytical side is at about, what was it, 40 out of 100. And so it's not what you would think with being super high, but I've learned how to use numbers because they matter so much. All right, so next we're going to click Save and Continue. Okay, this is the part that gets tricky and people get really tied up. There's also one little minor glitch right now with the software. Depending on when you're watching this, it may not be there anymore. So I'm just going to address it in case you're setting this up today, since we just rolled out with goals. Okay, the first step is activities. Now, this needs to be better spelled out, and I'm going to help you with this because I've heard this explained, and it looks a little bit incorrect as to what it looks like command is going to track. So I would like to teach this according to how I'm seeing that they're going to figure those numbers based on our command activities. So you would think when you're typically formatting your business plan, your activities would be things like, I'm going to make 100 calls, or I'm going to generate 100 Facebook leads, or I'm going to send out direct mail to my 250 home farm, or I'm going to knock on this many doors. And then we would go to conversion rates. And that is what I would automatically think in looking at this. But I want to tell you that when I went down to when I finished this all the way through and looked at the activities spelled out on the reports, I'll tell you what is actually spelled out. It is meetings. Actually, let me see if I can drop this down to my window for a second. No, that might get us confused. So it's meetings, calls, emails, text messages, smart plans, calendar, events, notes, searches, neighborhoods, favorited, and listing. Those are the items that are actually, I'll put those in the description below in the video too. Those are actually what are listed in the documented activities. So the way I'm gathering this is that they are, every time we enter a meeting in command, every time we enter that we had a call in command, or there's a two-way email going back, or there's an email sent, or there's a text message sent, or a smart plan applied, or a calendared event happening. All of these things, notes, search, neighborhood, favorite, listing, are going to be the activities that count as the whole. So essentially, the more you use command, the better these activities will take place. Now, 3% is a really safe number, because when you're looking at anything, when you're making a bunch of calls, when you're sending direct mail, when you're sending text messages, when you're sending, whatever to generate what I would call leads, I'll break that down, it's a little bit different on here, then 3% is actually a safe estimate of conversion to become a lead. If 100 people visit my website, 3 of them historically will become a lead. Register. They're going to register for something, right? 3% on page to becoming a lead conversion. So if you're going to make 100 calls, 3 of those might actually turn into somebody in your database, right? So this is kind of the math. Over time, as you use command, this will start populating based on your use of command. And then we're also going to be able to compare with the averages amongst all the other agents, and then Kelly will be able to give us insights as to what needs to happen next. It might say something like, send Mary Smith a text message, because statistics show that if we send 10 text messages in this amount of time, you're likely to increase your conversion by X%. And these are the things that are going to start working with command that I'm super, super excited about. That's going to take time, and it's going to take us all using the system for it to be as powerful as that. And it will happen. I don't know how long it'll take, but it will happen. All right, so that's what that is. So keep that in mind, and that's why I'm leaving mine at 3%. Over time, that'll change. Now, here's where it gets really tricky with leads and contacts, because the definitions have changed as we know it. So be careful about this. You'll notice leads are first before contacts, where it used to be, we always kind of said a contact is somebody in our database, and a lead is somebody that raises their hand that's interested in buying or selling real estate. They're just a contact until they raise their hand and then they become a lead. In this particular case, they're kind of reversing this, okay? So if you hover over the little I, you're going to see leads, people that have shown interest in the services you offer but have not engaged in two-way conversation. Contacts are leads that you have held a two-way conversation with and have established a value-based relationship with. So they're actually kind of like, I guess now everybody in your database is probably going to be defined as a prospect, right? It's so tricky. And it bothers me because of the whole way we've ever learned this has felt very different to me, at least for this. But what they're saying is they're a lead when they become a registration on your website. They register for a Facebook form, or they're on your call list. You've entered them in because they're on your call list, or you're door knocking, and so you've entered that person into your database that you knocked on their door, but they're not considered a contact until you have a two-way conversation. So it's kind of like the difference between captured and connected. So look at leads as captured and contacts as connected. I'd like to see those little lines show up here, because that, I think, is a better way to define that. Okay, so what it's saying now is, out of all of the leads you generate, how many of those become contacts? Okay, so let's do the math on this. You're going to run a Facebook ad, and you're going to get 100 leads. 100 people filled out your lead registration form. Out of those 100 people, you're going to have bad emails, bad phone numbers, Fred Flintstones, go away, we don't like you, said in much worse ways. You're going to have all of those things. You're going to have the people that the information is correct, but they just completely ignore you. You're going to have people that say, I never registered for that. You're just going to have a natural fallout. So out of those 100 leads, how many actually become contacts? You see how that works? So 10% of your activities become leads, and 60% of those leads become contacts. So you reached 60% of those leads. Now, that number seems ridiculously high, but again, I think it's based on how they're figuring activities becoming leads. So it's not quite as simple as 100 Facebook leads become this, 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 and this, because they're including all of those activities. So our sphere of influence is going to be in there, our referrals are going to be in there, our farm's going to be in there. So it's kind of grouping it together that way. Over time, as we fill out command, those numbers are going to change. Now, from those contacts that you have had two-way conversations with, so these are your bona fide viable people now, that you have moved through a certain phase of lead gen, you've now connected with them, and you're having two-way conversations about real estate. How many of those now become an appointment? Right? Now, this will figure over time. You might start a two-way conversation and that person doesn't buy or sell for 2 years. Over time, this number will develop. So how many of those become appointments? So you can leave the defaults that are in the system, right now, or you can adjust numbers based on what you know. Okay. Now, from those appointments set, you've actually set a listing consultation or a buyer tour or an in-office buyer consultation. How many of those, or virtual, become kept appointments? Guys, you're going to have fallout. You're going to set appointments. Those people never end up coming to town, or they decide not to sell, or their situation changes. Anything can happen. Potentially, maybe you even put them with a lender first before you set an appointment. You put them with the lender and they don't qualify for a home. Those types of things are where this comes in. So out of that, how many appointments are going to be kept? If you think it's higher than that, like, no, I qualify really good. If I make an appointment, 80% are going to happen, or 90% are going to happen. Then you change these numbers based on you. Okay. Now you go to these appointments. So you have a listing appointment, you have a buyer consult. How many of those actually agree to do business with you? So this is your conversion rate of appointment to contract, of agreement to do business with you, agency agreement, however it works where you are. So if you use listing agreements, this would be how many people agreed to list their house. And with buyer appointments, how many people agreed to work with you? It could be verbal, it could be whatever you want. So out of those kept appointments, how many become, yes, I want to do business with you? Okay, change that number accordingly. Now, for those of us that think a little bit more advanced, I'd love to see those split, because you might actually take 90% of your listing appointments, but only 70% of your buyer appointments agree to work with you exclusively or sign a buyer agreement. So that number might be completely different. So we're just kind of looking at this as a whole. Okay. Now, out of those people that agree to work with you, how many become a contract? Same here. It'd be nice to see that split, because if they've agreed to work with you in a listing, then 100% of those should become contracts because they've agreed. So that means it's a listing contract. Where with a buyer side, they've agreed to work with you, but if they haven't signed an exclusive buyer agreement, there's no contract until it becomes a sale. So a little bit, just kind of grouped in there as averages. Okay, so you can figure that out of how many you work with, how many become contracts. So that number will be lower because of the buyer side, where it would be higher probably on a listing side, right? So you can change that. We'll say 75% based on how I do consultations. I'm going to change up to 75%. Now, out of all of those people that have now gone under contract, oh, I'm sorry. I said that a little bit squirrely. Out of people that become agreements to work with you, how many become a home contract to sale? Just rephrasing that. So how many actually become a contract to sale? So your buyer might have agreed with you to work verbally, and you might still count that as a contract. And then how many of those actually become sales? So now that makes a lot more sense on this piece here. So you have your buyer side, your listing side, 90% of your listing agreements turn to contract, 80% of your buyer agreements, we're doing an average, whatever. And then how many of those turn into a home sold, even though it didn't go to closing yet? So buyer contract, listing contract, 75% go under contract. Perfect. And then out of the ones that actually go under contract, how many make it through to the closing? Okay. All right. So you're going to have some fallout because buyer bought a couch last minute, or bought a vehicle, or bought something that shot them out. Now they can't qualify, or whatever the seller decides not to sell, something changed. So you can change that to whatever you think your actual conversion rate is. And then we're going to click Save and Continue. Now we go to Kelly Guides and goal setting. So here is the estimate based on everything that we put in. So you can see here's our $10,000 average commission. Here's all of our conversion rates that we estimated. Therefore, we get this GCI goal breakdown based on wanting to make that amount of money. So what it's saying is, if I want to profit $100,000 in my pocket, and my average commission is $10,000, you know what I missed? I didn't adjust the cost of sales and expenses. Now I want to see. All right, we're gonna see if we can do a workaround here. Hold on. Let's go back. Not a workaround, but I did not enter my cost of sale. I let the default choose it. I want to see where that's at. Okay, annual profit goals, operating expenses. Oh, it's based on a dollar amount, not a percentage. Now that's interesting. Okay, so what we have here is you would put in your actuals. In our MREA past, we would figure that based on 30% of our total is XYZ, right? So our cost of sales is going to be entered here. So let's just say my cost of sales is 100,000 and my operating expenses are 100,000. So that's a little tricky. Look up here at your actual numbers, cost of sales being 8%. So that should be closer to like 30% on a team. There's no easy calculator here to figure that out. So you see up here where it's changing. Now my cost of sales are about 15%. This is a little squirrely. Operating expenses are going to be 200,000. I want to be able to put in a percentage there. Okay. Get this as close as I can so that at the end it actually makes a little bit more sense. Cost of sales are still high, so let's do that at 150. I may be missing something, the easy way to do this. Math is not my favorite thing on the planet, although the numbers are. The math part isn't. Operating expenses, let's put that at about 30%. Even lower. That's good. So based on this looks more like the MREA, where it's saying my annual profit goal is 33%, my cost of sales is 33%, and my operating expense is 33%. This looks a little bit more MREA friendly. So my profit goal would be 33% of my total GCI. See? This actually makes a lot more sense. Okay, now I'm going to save and continue. So you'll have to play with those numbers on your side. And then we're going to go to save and continue. Oh, so much better. So my GCI goal then is 300,000 in total commission with an estimated cost of sales at 33% and expenses of 33%. You will need to adjust this based on you. So for example, if you have a team and you're 7th leveled and you're no longer working on your team and you're working off a 22% profit margin or 25% profit margin, then you'll adjust this for you. If your cost of sales are low, you're not doing a large referral business, all you have is your cap and franchise fee, you don't have ISAs, you don't have whatever, then that number would be your total cap and your franchise fee would be your total cost of sales. So then you would figure that percentage accordingly, and that might be lower. If you're not running that many expenses, you're running your business very lean, it's primarily sphere of influence referral based, you don't have the lead generation activities, then your expenses might be lower. So you'll adjust that. Over time, I'm sure we're going to have the ability to list all of that, and we'll get some actuals on our expenses as well. Okay. So this is a great summary here of what this looks like. So it's telling me that for me to make $100,000 next year on this model, I need to do 300,000 in GCI. This totally makes sense. Okay. So then when you go to what's next, after you've calculated that, I might do a little advanced one for those of us that have teams and have a higher cost of sale. Like in my case, my model is very different where my agent makes 70% and I make 30 instead of like a 50-50 deal or vice versa. I only make 30, but I don't have the expenses. They pay for their own admin, their own photographer, their own whatever. So the way my model is, I'll be way lower in the marketing expense and way higher in the cost of sales. So that might be interesting to play out what that looks like too. Next, you're going to go to view my goals, and you're going to see where this shows up now in your reports. So to access this page now, all you have to do is from the home screen, wherever you are in Command, scroll down to Reports. You'll see Dashboard, Reports, and Goals. Click over to Goals. And now right here, these are going to start populating annual numbers. and it'll tell you the total activities that are projected. So it's saying you need to have 85,733 activities. Now, don't scream and run out into traffic because you're freaked out. That's your emails, your text messages, your smart plans, people saving listings. This is all of the command activities that are being tracked. So this is not exactly a lead generation model. What I would do from here is I would still figure out, okay, I need to get this many leads. I need to do these particular types of activities to get there, like more of a lead generation model. But starting from right here, what you can see is I need to have 2,572 quote unquote leads in my database, right? Now remember, those leads are going to be a list that you enter because you're going to go knock on those doors and you might put those people in. You're going to count the activity. Now, in this case, knocking on the door isn't an actual activity unless you put it on the calendar, right? And you can. There will be ways to track those based on what I was looking at. You could call those meetings. You could call those calendars. It looks like you can put that under notes. You can put that under. So you'll be able to count that activity. So 2,572 people that are considered leads or that you would be prospecting to, right? People that have shown some sort of interest because they registered for your Facebook ad or something like that. Then the contacts are the people you've actually connected with, right? Remember, these are captured. So not really just a list of people you're door knocking, but more of people that actually opened the door maybe. I don't know, but those people had a conversation with. So door knocking is a little tricky when it comes to that. So let's just use Facebook ads. All these leads came off your Facebook ads. Okay, 2,572, and then out of those, 257 people you actually talked to. So 2,572 captured, 257 connected, captured, connected, captured, connected. All right, out of the connected 257, how many become appointments? You need 155 appointments. Let's look at that. How reasonable is this? 155 appointments divided by 12 means you need to be on 13 appointments a month. 13 appointments divided by 4, you need to be on 3 appointments a week. So in order for you to make $100,000 in your pocket based on this model of 33% cost of sale, 33% operating expenses, you would need 3 appointments a week. Or my team would need 3 appointments a week based on this model, okay? All right, so now that you know how many appointments, actually that's appointments set, not even gone on, because we have a little bit of a fallout. Out of those 155 set, actually 92 of those are going to be realized. So 92 divided by 12 is only, let's just say 8 a month. I'm going to round up. 8 a month. So that's 2 appointments a week. 2 appointments a week kept to get to $100,000 in your pocket. Next one is agreement. So out of those appointments kept, how many actually become agreements? You need 56 agreements. So you need 56 exclusive listing agreements combined with exclusive buyer agreements or buyers that have agreed to work with you in some format. If you want to take a verbal agreement, that's fine. So 56 have agreed to work with you. Whether or not you want to count that as exclusively with you or not, that's your business. Maybe you're listing yes because I'm taking them to go look at homes, and I assume that I'm going to convert those to a contract. So I'm going to count everybody that makes a home tour appointment with me as a contract. Whatever. You need 56 of those agreements. 56 people that say yes, I want to work with you. Okay. Out of those 56 people that say, yes, I want to work with you, 33 of those need to become a home sold. Not yet closed, but sold, contracted to sell. So listing sold, buyer consult sold, but then not yet closed. Out of those 33 contracts to sell, 30 become closed units. So all in all, based on this model we set up, to make $100,000 in annual profit, I need to close 30 homes. Now, as you start moving through the year and these numbers start adjusting, you're going to be able to start spotting where the weaknesses are. If you don't have 2,572 leads, which is the domino, actually the activities is the domino, what one thing that such by doing makes everything else less necessary or unimportant, it's going to be your activities, right? Because those are controllable. And then this leads is really your leading indicator as to how the rest of the year is going to go. So how many, this is your one thing you can change is your activities. And then your leads are going to be a leading indicator as to what else happens from there. So these activities are what control that leads, right? And then how many of those leads become contacts? Well, this could be script issues. This could be conversion issues. This could be, it's going to be scripts and conversion. How good are you? How good are you at moving those leads to a contact? This could be your ISA piece right here in the middle. How good is your ISA? If there's a weakness here, there could be an issue with your stalking abilities. When I say ISA on this piece, I'm talking about, how they're taking those leads to contact. Are they doing extra research on those phone numbers? Like I use Spokio, so I can put an email or a phone number to Spokio, and then I can get a direct mail address, or I can put in a phone number, get an email address, or I can get their social connections. Whoever you have doing that piece, if it's you or somebody else, that's where that might be controllable, right? And it might also have to do with direct lead source. If you're running Facebook lead form ads, you're going to get a whole bunch that never turn into contacts because of the way it pulls information. So you're going to have to consider those. Contacts, appointments, now this is truly your ISA, right? This is where we've got people that have raised their hand and said, yes, no, I'm interested. How well are we turning those into appointments? Or it's you making those. So again, this is going to be scripts, right? And it's going to be follow-up and scripts. And then from how many of those appointments set, how many become appointments kept, that's not as controllable other than, following up, confirming, hey, we have an appointment on such and such date. But this shouldn't be that drastic of outside of the average conversions there. All right, appointments kept to agreements. This is scripts. How well do you do a listing appointment? How well do you do a buyer appointment? That's going to all be you right there, or your agent. If there's a weakness here, it's scripts, right? It's presentation. It's confidence. That's going to be skill right here. This is going to be skill. And then agreements to under contract, that's going to have to do with how well the home sells, right? So it could be marketing. It could be pricing the home properly. That's where that gap might be. And then under contract to closed units, you don't have much control over. So that's going to be more of kind of a national variable, I think. And knowing what each one of those phases is going to help you. Now here we have a profit tracker. What that tells me is that we're going to be able to manage our profit and loss in here, or that placeholder wouldn't be there. So I think we're going to be able to now much better calculate what our profit percentage is, and imagine what Keller Williams is going to be able to do with that data at the following family reunion, when they're actually discussing what our agent averages are, not just the real estate industry as a whole. They're going to know these kind of leads convert to what dollar amount. I mean, this is the stuff I've been building for years for my own team, and now it's being provided for us. Incredible. Now here, you're going to be able to see your activities breakdown. This is where I was telling you. It lists meetings, calls, emails, texts, smart plans, calendar, events, notes, search, neighborhood, favorite, listing as your activities. That's where I find this information. So those will start populating as you start using command starting in 2020. Here's your actual goal conversion rates. These are going to be based on what you actually put into command. And then your year to date will be fed from opportunities, actual closings. Guys, this is gold. This is money. If you use nothing else in command besides contacts, opportunities, and goals, you are going to be so far ahead of the average real estate agent because now you actually know where you can move the dials. You have to know which lever to pull to change your outcome. And if you're guessing, you're basing your decisions on emotions, not on evidence. And this gives us the evidence to change the trajectory of our business, or to continue on with what's working well, or to add zeros to what's working well. This is huge. My name's Lori Ballen. I would appreciate your referrals in Las Vegas, Nevada. I am a coach and a consultant. Head on over to ballenacademy.com and take a look at what we're offering today. I also run At Your Command coaching. Thanks so much for joining me.